Picture this, a rickety old trailer sitting under a starless sky decades ago. Inside, a little girl named Evelyn is fast asleep. Her mother is in the next room, and the world outside is quiet, but not for long. Something wakes Evelyn up. It's a feeling, a chill that has nothing to do with the night air. She sits up, her heart thumping against her ribs, and her eyes drift towards the window, and that's when she sees him. A man is standing just outside, his face pressed close to the glass. His beard is long and white like tangled frost, but it's his eyes that freeze her in place. They're glassy, vacant, like two marbles reflecting the moonlight. They stare right through her, not asterisk at asterisk her, but asterisk into asterisk her. Evelyn can't scream. She can't move. She just watches as this silent, terrifying figure fills her entire world. The air grows thick, heavy, and a low hum seems to vibrate through the thin walls of the trailer. She squeezes her eyes shut, wishing him away, praying for morning to come. When the sun finally streams in, Evelyn dares to open her eyes. The man is gone, but so is the window. It's not broken. It's just gone. A perfect, clean rectangle cut out of the wall, as if the window and its frame were never there at all. Her mother rushes in, her face pale with shock. There are no footprints, no signs of a struggle. Just an open wound in the side of their home, letting the cold morning air pour in. They packed their bags that very day, leaving the trailer and the terrifying memory behind, never to speak of the man with the glassy eyes again. They just wanted to forget. But some things don't want to be forgotten. Years pass. The world moves on. That abandoned trailer, a relic of a forgotten nightmare, was eventually sold for scrap. Most of it was torn apart, but one section, the section with the missing window, was deemed salvageable. It was sold to a local contractor, part of a lot of cheap, prefabricated materials. You see, the town was growing and they needed a new school. Hollow Ridge Elementary was built quickly, using a mix of new and recycled parts. And that one wall, that piece of Evelyn's old trailer, was built right into the school. It became part of a classroom, classroom 2B. For a while, everything was normal. Kids learned their ABCs, played during recess, and complained about homework. But then strange things started to happen in classroom 2B that started small. A pencil rolling off a desk on its own. A sudden, inexplicable cold spot that would make students shiver even on the warmest days. The teacher, Mrs. Gable, would often find the classroom door wide open in the morning, even though she was certain she'd locked it the night before. She blamed the wind, a faulty lock, old building quirks. But the quirks kept getting weirder. Children in her class started drawing the same picture over and over again. A man with a long white beard and empty round eyes. When Mrs. Gable asked them where they'd seen this man, they'd all give the same answer, in the window. But there was no window on that particular wall. It was just a solid wall, covered in posters and student artwork. The kids would point to a blank space on the wall and describe him in chilling detail, staring at them while they tried to learn their multiplication tables. They weren't scared of him. They said he just watched. One afternoon, during a parent-teacher conference, Mrs. Gable was talking to the mother of a boy named Leo. Leo had become quiet and withdrawn, and his grades were slipping. His mother mentioned that Leo had been having nightmares. He kept talking about a whispering man in his classroom. As she was speaking, a framed painting on the wall behind Mrs. Gable suddenly crashed to the floor, its glass shattering everywhere. When they cleaned up the mess, they noticed something underneath where the painting had been. Faint dark lines. Scratches in the plaster. Driven by a strange mix of fear and curiosity, the school janitor, Mr. Henderson, was called in. He chipped away at the plaster and the drywall, and there it was. Underneath layers of paint and plasterboard, they found it. An old, weathered window frame, but with no glass. It was the exact spot the children kept pointing to. It was the window from Evelyn's trailer. The school administration was baffled. How did a window frame end up sealed inside a classroom wall? They decided to board it up and repaint, hoping to put an end to the strange occurrences. But you can't board up a memory. The activity in classroom 2B only got worse. The cold spots became biting cold. Whispers were heard when the room was empty. Objects would fly off shelves. It was no longer just the kids. Teachers and staff started avoiding that part of the school after dark. The story of the haunted classroom became a local legend, a ghost story whispered on the playground. And the drawings of the man with the glassy eyes kept appearing, tucked into library books and slipped under doors. He was no longer just watching. He was making his presence known. Meanwhile, miles away, Evelyn is now an adult. She's tried to build a normal life, but the memory of that night has always lingered, a dark shadow at the edge of her thoughts. One day, she's browsing the internet and stumbles upon a blog about local urban legends. Her blood runs cold as she reads a post titled "The Watcher of Holleridge Elementary." The details are all there, the cold spots, the whispers, and the children's drawings of a man with a white beard and glassy eyes staring from a window that isn't there. She sees a photo of the school, and something about its structure feels disturbingly familiar. Evelyn knows she has to go back. She has to face the source of the nightmare that has haunted her for her entire life. She drives for hours, her hands trembling on the steering wheel, until the brick facade of Holleridge Elementary comes into view. The school is closed for the weekend, empty and silent. She finds a way in, her heart pounding with every step down the deserted hallways. She doesn't need a map. A cold, unseen force seems to pull her forward, down a specific corridor. Stopping right in front of the door to classroom 2B, she pushes the door open and the air inside is freezing. It smells of chalk dust and something else, something old and decayed. The room is just as the blog described. But on the far wall, where the window was supposedly boarded up, the plaster is cracked and peeling away. And in the center of the wall, she sees it. A faint shimmering outline of a window, glowing with a faint ethereal light. And standing within that ghostly frame is the man. The man with the white beard and glassy, vacant eyes. He hasn't aged a day. He stands there, just as he did all those years ago, staring through her. But this time, Evelyn doesn't just stand there frozen in fear. She finds her voice. "Who are you?" she asks, her voice shaking but firm. "What do you want?" The figure doesn't speak. But the low hum she remembers from the trailer begins to fill the room, growing louder and louder. The lights flicker, books fly from the shelves. It feels like the entire room is being torn apart by an unseen force. He isn't just a memory. He's a presence, an entity tied to that very spot, that piece of her past. Evelyn realizes he's not haunting the school. He's haunting the asterisk window asterisk, or what's left of it. He's a glitch in time, a moment of terror trapped in a physical object, replaying itself for anyone sensitive enough to see. He's not trying to hurt anyone. He's just there. A permanent echo. Understanding this doesn't make him less terrifying, but it changes her fear into something else pity. She realizes the only way to stop this is to remove the source. She has to get that window frame out of the wall, to break the loop once and for all. This isn't just about the school anymore. It's about setting herself and maybe even him free. The fight for Holleridge Elementary, and for her own
But even years later, you can't quite shake it. My story starts when I was just a little kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old. My family and I lived in this old, beat-up trailer. It wasn't much, but it was home. My 2 older brothers and I shared a room, and right next to my bed was a window. A window I came to dread. Every single night, without fail, I'd wake up, and every single night, standing outside that window, was a man. He was just a silhouette, a tall, dark figure against the faint glow of the distant streetlights. He never moved. He never made a sound. He just stood there, staring, as you can imagine, for a 4-year-old. This was terrifying. I'd scream for my parents, absolutely convinced there was a monster outside. My dad, bless his heart, would come rushing in. He'd check the locks, peek outside, and every time, he'd say the same thing. "There's no one there, son. You were just having a bad dream." My mom would try to soothe me, telling me it was my imagination running wild. But I knew what I saw. It wasn't a dream. This went on for what felt like an eternity, night after night. The same figure, the same window, the same bone-deep terror. Eventually, we moved. We left that old trailer behind and settled into a proper house. And just like that, the nightly visitor was gone. The nightmares stopped. The figure at the window became a distant, fuzzy memory. Something my brain filed away as a childish fantasy. For years, life was normal. I grew up. My brothers and I got our own rooms, and the story of the man at the window became a funny anecdote we'd sometimes tell. A quirky little tale of my overactive imagination as a kid. I almost managed to convince myself that's all it ever was. Then came the night I turned 10. We were living in a completely different house, miles away from that old trailer park. I was a big kid now, not easily scared. I shared a room with my middle brother, while my oldest brother had his own room down the hall. That night, something woke me up. I opened my eyes, and the first thing I saw was the time on my alarm clock. 3 a.m. The witching hour, hasta l'italiano. But it wasn't the clock that made my blood run cold. It was the figure sitting on the edge of my bed. It was my brother. At least, I thought it was. He was just sitting there, perched on the mattress, facing away from me, looking towards the wall. His silhouette was familiar. The shape of his head, the slope of his shoulders. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he had a nightmare and came to my bed for comfort. "What's up?" I mumbled, still half asleep. No response. He just sat there, perfectly still. "Hey," I said, a little louder this time. "You okay?" Still, nothing. It was starting to get weird. I watched him for what felt like minutes. He didn't move a muscle. He didn't even seem to be breathing. And the strangest part, he never blinked. His eyes were fixed on the wall, wide and unblinking. A sense of unease started to creep up my spine. This wasn't right. I decided I had to use the bathroom. As I carefully slid out of bed, trying not to disturb him, I kept my eyes locked on his form. He didn't turn. He didn't react. It was like I wasn't even there. I tiptoed out of the room and down the hall to the bathroom. My heart was starting to pound a little faster now. The silence of the house was deafening. On my way back, I passed the room my brothers were supposed to be sharing. Out of habit, I glanced inside, and that's when my world tilted on its axis. There, in their beds, were both of my brothers. Both of them, fast asleep. My middle brother was snoring softly in his bed, and my oldest brother was tucked into the other bed across the room. I froze in the hallway. The air left my lungs. If both of my brothers were in there, then who, or what, was sitting on my bed? My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. It couldn't be. It was impossible. Every rational thought was screaming at me, but the terrifying truth was sinking in like a stone in water. The thing in my room was not my brother. It was something else, something pretending to be him. Every instinct told me to run, to scream for my parents. But I was paralyzed by a morbid curiosity. I had to see. I had to know. Tucking a deep shaky breath, I forced my legs to move, step by agonizing step, back towards my bedroom door. I peeked around the corner, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. The bed was empty. The figure was gone. For a split second, I felt a wave of relief. Maybe I was dreaming after all. Maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd even holding and stepped fully into the room. And that's when I saw it. On the wall. The wall that the figure had been staring at so intently. The wall that was, just moments ago, a plain, painted surface. Now, it had a window. It was impossible, but there it was. A perfectly formed window, complete with a frame and glass, set into the middle of my bedroom wall. An interior wall, but it wasn't just any window. My blood turned to ice as I recognized it. It was the exact same window from our old trailer. The chipped paint on the frame, the small crack in the corner of the pane. It was identical. And standing outside it, shrouded in the darkness that shouldn't exist inside my house, was the silhouette of a tall, thin man. He was back. The same figure from my childhood. He was just standing there, motionless, staring. Not at me, but through the glass, into my room. As if he'd been waiting, I finally found my voice and I screamed, a raw, guttural scream of pure terror that brought my parents crashing into the room. I was babbling, pointing at the wall, trying to explain the impossible. But when they turned on the light, the wall was normal, blank and solid. The window was gone. The man was gone. There was nothing there. They thought I'd had a vivid nightmare, a delayed reaction to the stress of growing up. Maybe. They could never explain why both my brothers were sleeping in the other room, and I could never explain the chilling certainty I felt. That thing, that creature, had followed us. It had waited years, and it had found a new way in. It wasn't tied to the trailer, it was tied to me. To this day, I can't explain what happened. Was it a hallucination? A dream? Or was it something else? All I know is that ever since that night, I sleep with the lights on, and I never, ever look at my clock when I wake up in the middle of the night, because I'm terrified that one day, I'll see that it's 3 a.m., and I'll turn to see that familiar window has appeared in my wall again, with that silent figure waiting for me on the other side. Exactly where our story finds Katie and Noah. Just two regular students, stuck in dissension long after everyone else has gone home. The school, usually buzzing with life, is now a labyrinth of silence and shadows. As they make their way down a long, deserted corridor, the fluorescent lights overhead begin to sputter and flicker, each one buzzing like a dying insect. It's the kind of electrical hiccup that's easy to ignore at first, just another quirk of an old building. But tonight, it feels different. Tonight, the darkness between each flicker seems to last just a little too long. They walk past classroom after classroom, all dark and locked for the night. The silence is so complete, they can hear their own heartbeats. Then, one of the lights ahead of them goes out completely, plunging the end of the hall into near total darkness. Noah pulls out his phone, its flashlight cutting a nervous beam through the gloom. That's when Katie grabs his arm, her breath catching in her throat. She's pointing at a door just ahead. It's classroom 207, a room that's been out of use for years, its door always locked. But it's the small, reinforced glass panel on the door that has her frozen in fear. Through that dusty pane of glass, inside the pitch-black room, a figure is standing there. It's Gail. Her skin is unnaturally pale, like old parchment, and her eyes are just dark, hollow pits. But the most terrifying detail is the thin trickle of dark liquid, like blood, dripping slowly from her ears, staining the collar of her old-fashioned dress. She isn't moving. She's just staring right at them. Her gaze feels like it's piercing through the glass, through the very air, and into their souls. There's no recognition in her eyes, no emotion at all, just a cold, empty void. For a moment that stretches into an eternity, they're paralyzed, locked in a silent staring contest with this impossible vision. The spell breaks. Primal fear takes over, and they don't need to say a word. They just turn and run. Their footsteps echo like gunshots in the empty hall, a frantic, panicked rhythm against the oppressive silence. They don't look back. They don't dare. They don't dare to. They just need to get out. As they sprint, the main lights in the hallway suddenly die completely, one after another, chasing them down the corridor in a wave of darkness. A split second later, the emergency lights kick in, bathing everything in a harsh, blood-red glow. It's in this terrifying, crimson light that the true horror reveals itself. They glance to their side as they run, and what they see stops them dead in their tracks. It's not just the one classroom anymore. It's every single classroom. And in the window of every single door, there's a reflection. But it's not their reflection. It's the same face, repeated over and over again. A man's face. He has slicked back hair and a cruel, thin-lipped smile that doesn't reach his eyes. His reflection is looking out from behind the glass of every door, his head slightly tilted, as if he's been waiting for them. It's the same man from the old school legend, the one a girl named Evelyn saw decades ago, right before she vanished. The man in the glass isn't just a static image. As they watch frozen in horror, every single reflection turns its head in perfect unison to follow their movement. The smiles on their faces widen, stretching unnaturally, grotesquely. He's watching them, waiting, trapped in an endless hallway of his own malevolent gaze. Katie and Noah are surrounded, not by walls, but by windows, each one a portal for this predatory entity. The air grows cold, and a faint whisper seems to echo from the glass itself. A chorus of voices too faint to understand, but filled with an ageless despair. Then, a new detail emerges from the crimson gloom. Behind the man's reflection in each window, other figures begin to appear. They are faint, almost transparent, like ghosts trapped in ember. There's a janitor in his old uniform, a teacher with her hair in a 1970s style, and a young boy clutching a vintage lunchbox. And then Katie sees her, the pale girl with the hollow eyes. She's there, too, behind the smiling man. Her face a mask of silent screaming. All of them, dozens of them, from different eras, all looking out with the same vacant, hopeless expression. The truth crashes down on Katie and Noah with the force of a physical blow, a realization so horrifying it steals the breath from their lungs. The legend was wrong. The window didn't just show you something terrible. It took something every single person who had ever looked into that cursed pane of glass. Their reflection, their very essence, was stolen. They became another face in the crowd, trapped forever behind the glass, forced to watch the world go on without them. The man wasn't just a vision. He was the warden of this glass prison, and the pale girl, Evelyn, and all the others. They weren't ghosts haunting the school. They were the prisoners. Now, as the man's smile seems to invite them in, Katie and Noah understand. They've looked. They've seen him, and now he's waiting to add their reflections to his collection. The hallway is no longer a path to escape. It's the gallery, and they are the newest exhibit. Their fate now tied to the smiling man in the glass. Thank you so much for joining me on this terrifying journey. If you love stories that send a shiver down your spine, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more dark tailies. Let me know in the comments what you think happened next to Katie and Noah. Stay safe, and maybe avoid looking too closely into old windows.